Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the S.O.F.T.E.N Now show. This is a show focused on positive living, work-life balance, living with a passion, success in life and business, and most importantly, making the world a better place. And we have with us this morning, afternoon, and evening, Auie from the Philippines. So Auie, say hi to everybody. Just wave your hand.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being with us. And hello, YP. It's
Yeah.
great to see
So
you
would you want
again.
to give a good, a quick 2 to 3 minutes introduction about yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a mother of four. I have three
Wow.
teenagers, and yes, I have a 5-year-old boy. And I'm married to one husband. We've been
Okay.
married for more than 20 years. I have
Wow.
more than 20 years of experience in human capital management, mostly in learning and development and organizational development.
So on this show, we're gonna talk about one very important aspect of running a business that's being able to do tough conversations at the same time. Coming up win-win. So can you share with us what got you interested into this special topic? Yeah.
Yeah, having been in human capital management or HR, which is how it's more widely known, for more than 2 decades, I realized how very important it is for an organization to learn that skill of being able to first create a safe space for people where they can have authentic conversations, authentic communication with each other. And number two, create that, develop that skill for people to be able to, number one, assert themselves, and number two, give and receive feedback skillfully.
Mm-hmm.
So, having realized the importance of the communication skill, and this is really not just being able to speak well in English, which is the business language in the world, but also use the language that you are comfortable with in expressing yourself. So for example, when you are speaking with fellow Filipinos, we normally have a lot of anxiety towards using the English language, fear of
Mm-hmm.
being judged for our accent, our grammar, and the like, and that somehow stops people from expressing themselves with authenticity because they have all these filters in their minds
Mm-hmm.
about their skills in communicating. And but when you are communicating also with peers around the world, and because of our culture, because we were colonized for many years, I also saw that it stops people from expressing themselves because they see other cultures as more of an authority or more superior
Oh,
than ours, and that does not help with the development of not just the person but also the team that needs to l- uh, really leverage on each other's talents. So if you cannot speak, if you cannot communicate, then how do we know of those ideas that you have that you bring to the table day in and day
mm.
out?
About I'm quite curious because you mentioned about the word culture, culturally, so do you find that culturally, in the Philippines and also I guess across Asia Pacific, people are more reserved and they're not they're afraid to offend people. So rather than say what they mean, they skirt around the issues. They are not able to bring up tough conversations, and then they'll just say, "Oh, okay lah, okay lah, okay lah." That type of feeling. Do you definitely feel that the people rather sweep the issues under the carpet than to surface out and have a more productive yet confrontational type conversations? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that in the many companies that I worked with. I worked with about 10 companies, both here and abroad. And I saw that there's a pattern in how we communicate as a culture. And it really stems deep. I mean, it goes back to when we were children, in our homes, our schools, and our communities, where we were taught that we're not supposed to challenge or questions people of authority, or people who are older than us. So when we get to the workplace, we also bring that mindset with us that if there is a directive or there are instructions from our managers and we don't necessarily agree with them, what our default is really to just keep quiet and reserve that for our conversations with our friends, our peers after the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an artificial harmony in meetings, but when we get out of meetings, that's when we feel more comfortable talking to our friends about how we felt about the topics that were discussed during meetings. And it becomes a problem when it gets in the way of the team actually coming up with the best ideas because of the conflict that happens in the non-meeting of the minds, or not really non-meeting of the minds, but really in the differences in opinions during that
Mm-hmm.
particular meeting. But then you lose that opportunity to actually share your thoughts and your feelings about a certain topic, because when you were a child, when you were in school and in your community, you were taught not to talk back to your
Yeah.
elders or to
Mm.
authority. And I also
Good.
experienced that, as being assertive as I am, as
Mm.
assertive as I am, I also experienced having that mental debate of whether I should raise my hand and point out and also express myself, or just leave things be because I don't want to rock the boat. And I don't want to
Okay.
be perceived as someone who is, trying to show off or trying to outsmart anybody else, especially the leaders in the room.
So are we going to put you on the spot? Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to share a story how you broke the mold, how you decided that you need to speak up, to handle a tough situation, and how it turned out well for you. Okay.
I think it's the point when I noticed patterns in my life where I felt like this has happened before. And the reason why this is happening now still is because I haven't really decided to speak up. So there was a point, I remember very clearly when that point was. There was a time when I had two managers. So one manager was local, and then my other managers was based in the US. And there was a point when I was feeling that my local manager was micromanaging me. And
Okay.
nobody likes being micromanaged, right? And
Right.
so I was talking to my American manager, and I there was a point when I was already like complaining. Not, it wasn't really helpful. It wasn't a very helpful attitude that I was, or mindset that I was in. And I kept on talking about how I didn't feel good that my other manager was micromanaging me. And the response of my manager really struck me, and I was taken aback by the question. She said, "Where are you in all of this?" And I took that question to mean, so what are you doing about it? Why are you allowing this thing to happen over and over again? And that brought me back to several experiences in the past when I felt like I wasn't being treated the way that I needed, and I wanted to be treated by either my manager or peers or people in the organization who have higher levels or positions than me. And I realized that, yeah, I really can do something about it. And I have the skills to be able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I can plan before that actual conversation, because it's not something that just happens. Me being able to provide that feedback and share how I'm thinking and feeling about how I was being managed is not something that will just happen out of the blue. I needed to really do something about it. And that helped me create that, or be in that mindset, in that space where I felt more confident because I knew that I needed to break that pattern.
Okay. And what was the result of it?
Oh, yeah, I had that conversation. So I took the courage. Of course, I needed to make sure that I had the right intentions for wanting to do that. I also needed to check whether is it really my performance that is driving my manager to micromanage me, or is it just her style? I needed to observe
Mm,
myself and also her style with others. And when I found out that that's her normal style, I also tried to find out why she's doing that. And I tried to research more about what her style was and how she has been very successful actually for having that leadership style for many years. So what would make her think, right, to change only for me? So it needed to be a mutually beneficial
mm,
proposition that I have. No, apart from giving her feedback that that's how she was making me feel, what would be my proposition? So I needed to really plan for my conversation with her. I set up an appointment with her through her assistant, and I told her that these were my agenda. I wanted to ask for feedback from her on my performance, and I also wanted to make this as that conversation an exchange of feedback. And I told her at the end of the conversation, I really wanted us to have a better working relationship. So I think
mm,
from setting that meeting up in a way that there is a pool of shared meaning for both of us, and that she knew that she was not going to be getting just feedback from me, and also that it's not going to be a one-way feedback giving session. I think it was very helpful. That also helped her prepare for that conversation as well. And after
mm,
that, it was a journey. It didn't she didn't stop immediately stop asking me for reports and asking me for the details, or asking me to run by her any decision before I made them. It was a journey, and I kept on giving her feedback, and I also kept on asking for feedback as to her confidence level in XYZ topics that I can make those decisions by myself. And um,
mm,
in the end, I was able to run her the C tool of asking her for what am I responsible for, accountable for, where she needs to be consulted, which items she needs to still be informed or just be informed. I think after those things, it's again, it was a work in progress for several conversations, and in the end, we actually parted ways as friends. So, and I
okay.
felt empowered. I felt like she trusted me more before we separated ways.
Okay. That's I mean hearing this, and also understanding the Filipino culture and also the Asian sort of culture. This is a very bold move, isn't it? Because rarely in an
Yeah.
Asian work environment to somebody ask the so I use the word superior or the person they report to for this type of conversations. It's most of the time you just bow down, lower your head, and just carry on the
Yeah.
working. That's powerful. Yeah. So good, 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 good.
Yeah.
So now, when you did the conversation, you say you prepared for it. Is there a particular framework that you use, to prepare?
Yeah, so whenever I go through tough conversations, and I didn't figure this out, um, in one sitting. I figured it out just again by looking at the patterns in my life and reading books and trying to gain more confidence and skill in
Mm,
having those tough conversations. I realized that for me to be in the mindset first that I'm going to have a successful tough conversation, I needed to soften. So soften actually is
mm,
an acronym for self. So evaluate myself. What is my intention? What are the benefits for me for that conversation? And then I needed to identify what the other person's benefits might be for that conversation. And then
mm,
F is focus on the dialogue. The dialogue is where we exchange meanings for that particular conversation, because I can only assume what would be the benefit for that conversation to that person. But if I don't allow that person to actually talk about how that could be meaningful for her as well, then it's just going to be a one way,
Mm,
like a monologue. It's not a dialogue anymore.
mm,
Next is I need to be able to track the conversation. So letter T, tracking the conversation, meaning I need to feel whether I'm dropping or stepping back into silence because I didn't feel safe anymore. Remember,
mhm,
this was someone of higher authority than I am. So when I didn't feel safe anymore, was I going back, stepping back into silence, or am I being violent? Am I being sarcastic? Am I using words that I'm not supposed to use that
mm,
would make the other person feel unsafe to also share their insights with authenticity? And then E is explore paths. Exploring paths meaning what options are there that are available for us to move forward from the topic that we're talking about. And it has to be, again, a mutually beneficial path that we're going to agree to take. And then the
mm.
last is initiate action. So when you are initiating action, that's N for initiate. Initiating action is really identifying your next steps. And there has to be accountability on the actions. It can't just be one person who's doing the change or making the changes. It has to be both of you also putting in your investment in that relationship so that you can move forward better people after that tough conversation.
So, Awi, you use the acronym SOFTEN, S-O-F-T-E-N. Can you just maybe do a quick recap of what SOFTEN means? Just word by word,
Yes,
so that our listeners,
right.
they can benefit from it. Yeah.
Of course. So soften, SOFTEN. S is for self. O O is for others. F is for focus on the dialogue. And then T is for track the conversation. And then E is for explore paths. And N is for initiate.
Okay, thank you. When we met in the Philippines, couple of months ago,
In
you,
July,
you were
yes, I
yeah,
remember.
wow, it seems so long ago, right? So you're mentioning that, that there is a program about crucial conversations and so on. So how are you involved in that program?
It's so one of the things that I do as now an organizational development consultant is I develop training materials. I develop workshops for my clients depending on their needs. And one of the programs that I was able to design and develop before was based on the book Crucial Conversation by Patterson. I have the book here with me, Granny, Macmillan, and Switzler. Um, and I conducted a couple of these workshops back in my previous organizations, and that's basically how I develop the programs that I have. I base them off of a book, or I research and put them together based on the needs of my clients. So yes,
Mm.
Crucial Conversations is one of the workshops that I facilitate as well.
And why would you say that, being able to make those crucial conversations, or as we put into the title of this today's program, how to have win-win tough conversations? Why do you think that that is so essential in an organization? Yeah.
I think that's a great question, and I always go back to the pool of shared meaning when you're having these kinds of crucial conversations. You have a crucial conversation when the emotions are high, the stakes are high, and there are varied opinions on the particular topic that's being discussed. And when you have that, it's very easy for people to go into, as I said earlier, silence or violence rather than just
Mhm.
focusing on the dialogue. Now, if you have read the book and or if you go through the workshop, it's easier for you to see how there are certain skills that you can actually learn for you to be able to go back and focus on the pool of shared meaning. There are 7 steps that the authors have identified on how you can make very effective crucial conversations. And although I base the workshop from the book, I also inject my own experiences and my own my own techniques in having those conversations. And
Mm,
I've also managed to inject soften, the one that I mentioned earlier, the framework that I mentioned earlier, into the
mm.
workshop, so that it's easier for people to remember. Because stuff, instead of being tough, when you're having tough conversations, you can soften, and
Okay.
achieve that pool of shared meaning between the two of you.
So, do you at any occasion have to help your clients facilitate tough conversations between departments, between individuals, and so on? So, I know you teach the material, but do you have to
Yeah.
facilitate such conversations?
Yeah. So, just, I think 2 3 weeks ago, I conducted a workshop for a multinational organization, and they just had a new managing director, and the managing director's culture is very direct, no, very different from the culture of the manner by which us Filipinos communicate with each other. And he's been with in the Philippines and with the company for a couple of months now, and the tension has been building because of the differences in the styles of communicating and leadership. So I needed to the team needed my help to not really step in, but just facilitate a safe environment
Mm,
for them to be able to have those tough conversations about, and provide feedback to their managing director, and for the managing director to also express his wishes and his style, and more also of the background of where he's coming from. And at the end of the session, that was a 1 day session that I facilitated for them. At the end of the session, they were all saying that, they weren't expecting that at the end of the session that they'd be feeling more positive about the relationship moving
mm,
forward. They feel more positive about their ability to speak or converse more authentically with each other, particularly with the managing director. And, it really takes courage to have those kinds of tough conversations. And also, I think the mindset of not having your own agenda and wanting to really understand where the other person is coming from
mm,
helps a lot. Being an outsider also helped me not have an emotional response to the way that the team members are conversing with each other. I'm not saying that you need an external person to do that for you, because sometimes there are members of the team who can wear that hat and be like the neutral person who can facilitate that conversation, who can identify whether people are already uncomfortable or feeling unsafe, and help the team switch back to the safe mode in terms of communicating. But there are instances when you do need someone to help facilitate that conversation, because especially when the emotions are high.
mm,
So that's why I'm saying it's very important for people to learn to have those tough conversations, because you don't always have the luxury of time and money to get someone to
mm,
facilitate that conversation for you. And if you are a leader, it's inevitable that you're going to have to conduct those tough conversations if you're managing
mm.
people's
True.
performance, if you're managing people's engagement.
Mm,
So, and I've had a lot of experience managing people who don't meet performance expectations, and those are always tough conversations. It's not always easy to. It's never
mm.
easy actually to tell someone that they're not meeting performance expectations.
So, I'm going to ask you a challenging question. How do you create a culture within an organization that tough conversations are okay and needed to be done?
Yeah, I think that's a good question in terms, and very very timely in especially during this time when right now, no, we're all organizations, most organizations are coming to terms with a hybrid type of work arrangement, when you don't
Mhm,
really have the benefit of the nonverbals to help you somehow contextualize what you're trying to say.
mhm,
So when you, and I've seen this before, how trust actually is a great tool and great um, building a trusting environment somehow helps. Oh, no, no, not somehow, but really helps in creating that safe psychological space for people to be themselves and bring their whole selves to work. So, how does that work? There's a trust equation, and I'm forgetting now who the poet was. But that equation, trust, is equivalent to credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, and it's divided. The denominator is self-interest. So what does that mean? If you show credibility, if you show reliability and intimacy, you know that the person you're talking to has your best intention, and you are perceived to have very low interest in just your personal objectives, it's very easy for people to raise their hand and call out things that they think might still be improved or outright wrong. And
Mm.
that creates an environment where people feel like they're also accepted when they have a trusting relationship, not just with their managers, but also with their peers.
Okay. So as we come up to the half hour mark, are we? Could you just give the final advice or final tip to, the business owners listening up here, on how they could thrive or how they could do well in the current business environment?
Yeah, the current business environment is tough enough in itself because of all the myriad of stimuli that's coming from outside and internally in the organization. You have your people coming in, the new people in the workplace, your Gen Z, your millennials who are from different generations. You also still have your baby boomers, you still have your Gen Xers in the mix. And there are different personalities that you need to help understand and bring together to make the most out of their talent so that they can bring the best out of your business. And my suggestion really is my advice is really to create a trusting working relationship. If you have time to also read the book by Patrick Lencioni, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, it all starts with
Mm-hmm.
creating the trusting environment where
Mm-hmm.
you share your strengths, you share your weaknesses, and when people see that you are also authentically bringing your whole self to work, that gives them the permission to do that, to do the same. So, and that's the only way for you to be able to leverage
Mm.
on each other's talents and strengths so that you can create something that's, the gestalt, right? It's the sum is greater than, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. If you let people bring their whole selves to work, their own ideas, their creativity, then you'll really have a greater chance at being successful in your business.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ari. Before we go off, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us for the show. I put in Ari's LinkedIn details here. So if you want to get hold of her, take a snapshot of this LinkedIn profile and you can get in touch with her directly. Okay. And a way of for us to say thank you so much to you for joining us in this program. I've actually got a book. Okay, it's an Amazon bestseller. 10 proven strategies to work less and more. But I'm not asking you to go up to Amazon and buy my book. I'm giving you this link down there where you can also get a free version of this book. Okay, so jump onto this link here and get yourself a free copy. So with this, we're gonna say bye bye. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening. How we shall we say? Bye bye. Yeah. Yeah. To all.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna see you next show, which is next Thursday. Okay. Bye bye.